Good afternoon and hello, everyone. My name is Rich Longo, your host for today's webcast on the power of Ivanti Automation. Today's presenter is Rob Simmers, Director of Professional Services for Flycast Partners. Rob has well over 20 years in the IT space and much of that time as an engineer, administrator, consultant, and a variety of other positions for identity and automation solutions. Rob has been instrumental in helping hundreds of organizations automate and create efficiencies. His evaluation and approach of IT environments has saved organizations untold budget dollars. Before we get started, let me introduce Flycast Partners. Flycast Partners offers best-in-class implementation services and training and IT service management, IT asset management, IT operations management, IT security, enterprise service management, and workload automation spaces using ITIL best practices. Our professional services team has well over 5,700 professional services engagements, both on-site and remote. And as a company, Flycast Partners has nearly 1,300 customers all throughout Canada and the United States. I encourage you to reach out to us directly at 844-FLYCAST, that's 844-359-2278, or you can go to our website and poke around, check some things out, and chat with us live from 8:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We have IT experts standing by just to talk with you, help you look for that white paper or data sheet, help you get the training that you're looking for, look at additional solutions that might help make you more efficient in your day-to-day job. And we encourage you to email us at info@flycastpartners.com. We will be taking questions throughout today's presentation, so please, I want to remind you to type those questions in the question section provided in this GoToWebinar presentation. I will read those off to Rob, and he will answer as many of those questions as time allows today. I would also like to remind all of you on this call today, if you haven't done so already, please enter in our weekly Flycast Partners raffle. It's a 10-year anniversary for Flycast Partners here in July, and we encourage you to enter our weekly raffle. You have to enter every week for a 25-watt Bluetooth speaker. Pretty high quality, cool little speaker. You can have at your desk, at home, or whatever you want to do with it. And those of you that are active customers of Flycast Partners, we encourage you to go to the website and enter our $500 lunch raffle for you and your teammates. You need only enter once, and we encourage you to go there and put in your information, and we will announce the winners at the end of July, first week of August. Once again, don't forget to send us your questions. Rob cannot wait to answer your questions today. He's more than happy. And Rob, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to you.
All right, thank you so much, Rich. Hopefully everyone can hear me and can see our presentation. All right, awesome. So guys, thanks for the wonderful introduction, Rich. I appreciate it. So today we're here to talk about the power of Ivanti Automation. And there's quite a history that kind of comes along with that. So I just kind of want to dive into things and actually look at, what is automation from a standpoint from, our organization. So I like this quote. What's driving automation is the fact that you absolutely have to get better and faster. And the only way to do that is by using automation. So I'm a huge proponent of automation, as Richard said. I've done a lot in organizations, and I see the impact that automation maturity brings to organizations. So with that said, let's look at a little bit at like what are our types of automation. So at a high level, there's business service automation. So this is orchestration of tasks and IT services. So one example that's like employee onboarding. So, and we do have products that do cover that, like Identity Director. And then we have IT service automation. That's kind of more going into setting up new employees with corporate applications, access, and those types of things. Again, something we can do with automation and or Identity Director attached to that as well. And then there's IT task automation, which is kind of where, as a standalone product, Ivanti Automation excels. So this is just configuring new laptops, network settings, spinning up, spinning down virtual servers. But it's got so much things that it can do, and I'm hoping to walk through as much as I can today to show you guys the awesome stuff it can do. So I came across this graphic years ago as I'd done some of these presentations, And I think it's very important to understand not only, you know, you have your return on investment for automation, but like what really, you know, is that impact, you know, when you start automating things. And this cool little graph kind of just shows, you know, some cool stuff. So I'll just stick with like at the middle, we'll say 5 minutes. So when you're doing a 5-minute task, and you know, I automate a lot of things like Active Directory and Exchange changes and just general file operations and things like that. Definitely something that can take 5 minutes as you're clicking around in the consoles or spending time opening tickets and then doing the tasks, all those types of things. So across 5 years, if you looked at if you were doing that 50 times a day, you know, as you're working tickets, you know, you would save 9 months of time. And so that's just with one process that you're automating. So as you mature through your automation processes, you're just obviously going to accomplish much more and start recuperating some of that time, where you're just really looking at any kind of failures and just working those as point issues. But you can see this is a really cool graphic just to kind of look at, and it just says a lot about like how much, you know, automation can influence and improve your time. So I'd like to kind of start talking about Ivanti Automation by what it is and is not. So what it is task automation, runbook automation, basic flow, and we're targeting servers, desktops, and API endpoints. So what it is not is an orchestration engine. So an example of an orchestration engine in the Ivanti suite would be, you know, your ITSM, your ISM, and or your identity director both have like orchestration engines. RPA, you know, robotic process automation, that's like your Microsoft Flow or Power Automate, and then mobile device management and patch management. So those last couple aren't really part of what automation does. So automation is kind of a workhorse. I've seen it do some tremendous things and really take the weight and load off what many organizations. So let's look at some of the key features of automation. So we have task automation, and I'll go through this. So the way that this kind of works is you're trying to do modular tasks, like little things that you do over and over again. And so it'd be something like creating an Active Directory user. You know, you're gonna do that same thing over and over again. You're just gonna pass data to it, and you want it to happen the same way over and over again. And then you have your runbook automation, which is a process. So if you're automating a process, you might have 3 steps in that process. You want to create an Active Directory user, create an Exchange mailbox, add them to some groups, something like that. So that might be your standard new employee or something like that. So the runbook allows you to basically take tasks and glue those tasks together to create a runbook. One of the big things inside of Ivanti Automation, if you're a fan of PowerShell, is it does have some great features for PowerShell execution. So I will show some of those in the demo that we're going to do here in just a moment. Then there are building blocks. So building blocks are pretty neat. So if you have multiple environments with Ivanti Automation, so you have your dev, QA, and test prod environments. So the building blocks are very interesting because you can actually take pieces or the entire environment and basically move those around pretty easily within the product, which I'll also showcase during our demonstration. We have advanced scheduling. So this is like cron jobs and scheduled tasks. So as a standalone solution, your advanced scheduling allows you to basically do those things like looking for expired accounts or Active Directory maintenance, those things you might have set up on a server to basically just be recurring tasks. But I'll also show you some pretty neat stuff there from that standpoint that you can do from advanced scheduling, so that it kind of controls and centralizes all those tasks. Then we have our integrations. So I'll definitely go pretty deep into this as well. But there's tons of integrations out of the box as far as tasks that's just included in the product. There's 300 tasks, 300 plus tasks that you can do inside the product. And then we extend it even further with integrations into other products. So on top of all that, we get audit tricks. So one of the things you might lose, if you try to do some more direct integrations, or if you have all of your scripts segregated into a scheduled task server and you're trying to roll up those audit trails. This is already built into this product. So it's got some pretty interesting audit capabilities on even who's changing scripts, but you also have the transactional records of everything that's happening in automation in there as well. And then just hybrid environment support. So it does multi-tenant support, and we can even split teams out to give, the same environment. We can give a team access to one thing and another team access to something else, and not allow them to do things across those. And I'll talk about those in the demonstration as well. All right, so as far as like our basic automation components, we have tasks. So these are your Legos. This is like a very singular thing or piece, and I can show you guys all this stuff, but it's basically going to be like, this is like create an Active Directory user. So that's a task. Your module is basically, you can glue the things together there, but you're trying to do, a module is modular. So you're trying to accomplish a single thing. So you might have to do two things to effectively create a user in your environment or something like that. So you might have a create task and set certain properties in Active Directory or something like that, and it's all just one task, but it's going to be done over and over again. So we would create a module for that. And then your projects and your runbooks are basically different ways to glue things together. And a project would allow you to run the same task consecutively on the same server. And a runbook gives you the ability to talk to a domain controller first, and then reach out to an Exchange server, and then reach over to a Citrix server and do something. So it allows you to kind of like talk to multiple boxes and use different credentials versus just executing all like a set of tasks in a project. So that's kind of the main differences there. So let's get into architecture. So as far as architecture is concerned, it's a distributed architecture, but it's very simple to set up and maintain. But it's very lightweight architecture. So basically, you're going to have a dispatcher. What this dispatcher does is it's basically a listener. It's basically listening for things that you're telling it to do. So from like an identity director perspective, identity director would reach over and tell the dispatcher it needs to create a user. We want to talk from ISM. It's going to talk to the dispatcher API and do things. And even when we initiate jobs inside of Ivanti Automation, it's going to reach out to this dispatcher and say, hey, I need to do something. Can you send it down to the agents that I'm telling you to send it to? So we have our agents on the endpoints. And then the backend data store is traditionally SQL. I believe there are options for other ones that you could look at in the documentation to see what those are, but I believe it's Oracle and a bunch of others, but traditionally we are sticking with SQL. And then a web server, IIS, gives you access to a portal, a management portal. But traditionally today, unfortunately, there's still a console that's basically used inside of this, but I'll show that to you guys in the demo as well. So I'm going to pause here for just a second and ask Rich if there's any questions that have come across on what I've covered so far.
That's right, folks. If you have any questions, go ahead and type those in the question section of this GoToWebinar. I do see that we've got a lot of interaction with folks today, just no questions about the tool itself. Did you want to launch the first poll while we're waiting for people to put some questions in?
Sure.
All right, let's see. We're going to do first poll. Are you using Ivanti Automation today? And we'll let that run for a couple seconds here. And wow, a lot of no's. Definitely quite a few no's.
Okay.
We'll give it about a minute to run. Folks, meanwhile, while we're taking this poll, please type your questions in the question section, and I'll read them off, and Rob will answer them. And I'm sure more questions will probably come up as he gets into the tool itself and what the tool can do.
Yep. While we're waiting, Rich, I'll just kind of cover history too. So, Ivanti Automation was previously a Res software product. So when Res had originally started, they were doing Workspace Manager, which is Workspace Control today in Ivanti's suite. So they had this tool that basically was managing the desktops for your virtual desktops, and they needed the capabilities to extend further into automation to do some scheduled tasks and other things. So they developed automation to basically supplement some of the things that they couldn't do within Workspace Manager. It was so effective and worked so well that they also started developing Identity Director. And Identity Director basically allows you to do data-driven automation. So we're detecting changes, typically this is HR or something like that, but it can be any data. A department changed, I want to take you out of the group you were in and put you, into this new group, and things like that. So it's always kind of used as a bridge between applications, which we'll talk about here in just a second. But you'll see that it's very robust from a bridging standpoint, and it has some pretty cool stuff. So.
And with that, I'm gonna go ahead and close the poll. We've got a lot of our folks have voted now, quite a few folks. As a matter of fact, actually the votes are still coming in, but we're going to go ahead and close because we need to get moving. And I'm gonna put those results up there for you here. And so 71% of you are not using Ivanti Automation today.
Okay, wow.
And we have quite a few folks on this call today. We have a couple hundred, so that speaks volumes about the number of folks that may not know about it yet.
Okay, great. Well, let's get them informed, Rich. All right, so how scalable is this? And I believe this is one of my questions I kind of ruined for Rich, but think about it from this perspective. This is just one of the use cases, and I use this in some pretty large corporations. But from an IBM standpoint, they did 20 million transactions a year, which is just crazy, with using Ivanti Automation. And this is just kind of a breakdown further into all those. They had the agent deployed to 80,000 servers that they basically were managing. So this is extremely scalable from as you can see here. So it can do some crazy stuff. And I will say from my experience using Ivanti Automation, once it's set up and working, it's a workhorse. Most of the times when there are failures or problems with tasks, it's based on like the other endpoints that you're talking to. So if you're talking to Exchange or something like that, there's a limitation on the amount of remote sessions you can make to Exchange before it starts yelling at you. So those would be usually the errors we would see. But if you basically weren't coming in any limitations on the other side of things, automation basically just worked. It's one of the things I loved about the product, and I still do today, is that you set something up to do it and it just works. So it's great from that perspective. So this is just kind of showing you guys a little bit about like how Ivanti Automation is a bridge. So basically we have our integrations over here. So these are like your kind of, I'd say, more on-premise things that you would be touching. You have your System Center, Microsoft PowerShell, Mobile Iron, those types of things. So it talks to ITSM products, and then over here in the middle, we would have more cloud products that it talks to. So it really, and these are built-in integrations that you can just download and start using. And I'll kind of go into that a little bit. Like if you're not a scripting expert, really this is just kind of fill in the blank. But if you want, you can really get some, detailed stuff you can do if you can use PowerShell or you have Python or something like that you want to leverage. Ivanti Automation can be used to leverage that as well and use existing scripts. So when you want something like this, by default, there are some of the things out there, and I'll show you guys those. But if you want to see all the capabilities, there's marketplace.ivanti.com that you can go out to, and you can filter basically on the automation or identity, and you can see all the different things that are out there from that perspective. But you look at this bridge, and you see over here that we have ITSM, ITAM, UEM, identity, security, and neurons. So some of the stuff, if you guys have played or heard anything on neurons, they have Automation Fabric, which is basically a lot of the technology that's coming from Ivanti Automation to do self-healing and those types of things, is kind of for this product. And over here from an ITSM perspective, if you want a ITSM actionable service catalog, where you basically will be able to automate requests and not just have tickets, you actually want to add someone to a group based on a request, or create a user, or terminate a user based on a request. It extends into that. But once you get over here into automation, it has so much integrations to talk to ITAM, UEM, identity can go back and forth, security, neurons. So there's lots of capabilities once you get the Ivanti Automation infrastructure stood up, which again is pretty simple. And I'll kind of walk through basically what that looks like here in just a second. So with that said, I just kind of want to show a basic workflow, right? So, we have our end user over here that needs new software. So, one of the ways that you'd be able to leverage automation is in a traditional, service management, you're going to have your catalog, right? And someone's going to go out and open up the catalog, fill the drop downs and your form fields out and request something, may go to an approver or something like that. But once it does that, it's typically going into a queue, right? It's going over to someone to work on. So someone from IT has to basically get it in their queue and work it. So if we connect automation as an integration over into ISM, we have access to all the things that we can do down here in automation. So once we're over here, we could talk to EPM and actually create a record over there. But that's even a very simple example. You'll see that there's tons of things you could do. You could do file operations, Active Directory, Exchange. You could do pretty much anything you wanted. And it's really great for on-premise applications that, we've had problems before where customers would want to talk to something on-premise from the cloud. And this bridges that gap to be able to talk to those on-premise servers and APIs and still be able to do things in workflows very similar to this. All right, and with that said, we're gonna go ahead and hop over into our demonstration. And Rich, I don't know if you wanna post one of your other questions or whatever while I pull this up, but I'm gonna go ahead.
I think what we'll do is we're gonna skip the one about how many tasks do you think it does in an hour. We're gonna go, do you have an actionable ITSM catalog? How many of you guys have an actionable ITSM catalog? And the votes are coming in. And also, folks, any questions so far, please type those in the question section. We'll get to those. And I'm sure questions will come up as he gets into the tool showing how the automation tool works. Feel free to type your questions in any time. I'll read those off. A good portion of the folks are voting right now, so we'll give it about 30 more seconds. Oh, so far it's not looking good for the actionable catalog.
Okay.
About 8 more seconds or so. We still have a lot of folks that are casting votes.
All right.
All right, we're going to go ahead and close out the voting. Let's take a look at these numbers. Let's see here. Wow, things are coming in so fast I can't stop it. Here we go. Hold on 1 second here. All right, we have closed out the poll. Let's go ahead and share those results. 60% do not have an actionable ITSM catalog. 60%.
Okay, great. So let's talk about automation. Let's just kind of walk you guys through the console. I'm going to walk you through a lot of the features and pieces and parts, just to familiarize yourself with what Ivanti Automation is and the components. So we'll start in topology. So this is basically the pieces that you glue together for it. So the console, which we're in right now, we have dispatchers, agents, and teams. So if you were to first install Ivanti Automation, the first thing that you need to do is deploy a dispatcher. So this is what the agents talk to. So in order for you to be able to have the agents report up to a dispatcher has to be deployed first. So basically, you come over, and it's really simple to basically deploy. You just kind of come over and do new, put in a computer name, deploy now, and it deploys your dispatcher. You shouldn't do your agent yet because you need to know what the dispatcher is to tell the agent where to go. Once you have your dispatcher set up, we would go into some of the global settings, and I won't go into that right now, but you go into the global settings and put in the name of your dispatcher or your list of dispatchers that you want your agents to report to. And then you can deploy your agents and have them report up into your dispatcher. And it's just as simple to come over here into the agents. You can do new and basically deploy to as many boxes as you want. When we come over here into the teams, so teams are basically like pools of servers, or and I'm trying to think of some of the other terms that they use in other products, but like from EPM and SCCM, you have your distributions or your distribution groups. So this is kind of set up the same way. So there's kind of two ways that a lot of people leverage Ivanti Automation. So you can leverage it to reach out and talk to a bunch of agents. So if you wanted to deploy this to all of your servers and basically execute tasks locally on a server, then you would obviously need the licensing to be able to reach out and talk to all those. Another way that we would do this is, for instance, if we were doing a ITSM link or something like that, then we would basically create a worker pool. So normally we would have like 2 servers or something like that that would be able to handle a ton of requests. But so you would have those 2 servers in your pool, and whenever you execute tasks, it's just going to execute on one of those 2 servers, and then we would remotely talk to an API, to Exchange, to Active Directory, Office 365, or wherever you really wanted to talk to. But you would have 2 servers that are dedicated to basically just executing automation tasks. So you would create a pool like this to add those servers to, and then whenever you're referencing later on that we'll show you in the library when we're scheduling jobs, we would reference those all servers and say we just want to execute that in one of the servers in the pool. All right, so coming over into the library, so the pieces over here, and this is some of the stuff I think is pretty neat, and I really like in Ivanti Automation. So, from having like your scheduled tasks on servers like that, something like that, where you want to consolidate things. So you have variables that we define over here. So these are our global variables. So these variables can be shared across a bunch of different runbooks and modules. And what that means is if I want to change a password, I don't have to go into all the scripts or edit anything. I just come over here and edit the password one time, and I could update 50,000 tasks with the password. So this is kind of like your global area where you can set some cool variables to be able to use throughout the entire environment. This has been terrific from when I use this stuff. It's absolutely wonderful to be able to have a security incident or something like that, and they're like, you need to change your password one place, change it, and then I'm done. So, but you can see here that we leverage it pretty heavily over here. So for our Active Directory infrastructure and your server names and stuff, and I'll show you how this is even used even further here in just a second. So when we come over into resources, I normally have most of my scripts built into the tasks, but if you have like software you're trying to deploy or a file that you want to reference, it needs to be stored somewhere. So that's what these resources are. So it is stored in the database, located on a file share, located in a URL, and Ivanti resource package. So what does that stuff mean, right? So one of the other cool things is I can come over and just hit F1 over here for help inside the product, and it does context-based help, and it will automatically open up into where we are in the console. So you can read about what's going on here. It's a really great way to learn the product. As you click around and don't understand what stuff means, you just basically hit F1 and it pops you right over to where you're looking at, and so it's contextual based. It's a great way to learn things. But anyways, so there are some drawbacks, and you can read the help obviously, but the big things is storing things in a database is going to make your database grow. So A lot of people use file shares, but you can also reference internet URLs. You have to be careful with that because you would have each agent downloading. It doesn't cache at a distribution level or anything like that. So they would all directly be accessing the internet and downloading content. So that can be dangerous from that standpoint. And if it's more than one file, then that's basically an Ivanti resource package versus just a single executable or something like that. So like your Office packages or something like that. So,
Rob, we do have a question.
okay.
Mark wants to know, is there an integration with ServiceNow? And if yes, what are the benefits?
There is integrations with ServiceNow. So it's really about bridging things. A lot of times we see, you could have Jira or multiple ITSM products where you're trying to replicate tickets and or you're trying to just create a process or create something in one system when it triggers inside of ITSM. So basically those integrations traditionally are for ServiceNow is just ITSM type things, but and I'll go into this in a minute, but you have what the integrations can do, but if there's an API that can do something on the back end, it's really your imagination is the limit because you can really do whatever you need to do if the products allow you to do it. So, all right, so I'm gonna pop up here to modules. So I created this one just to play around with today, but so inside of a module, this is basically where we're trying to do or keep things modular, right? So if I were to come up here and I'll just show you this Active Directory, for instance, you can see that these are very modular. So these are blocks. So think of this like rather than building an entire script that does a process, you're creating functions or modular pieces that you can glue together to use over and over again to automate hundreds of processes. So we highly recommend that you keep things very modular like this that allows you to basically not just run a script, but you can take these pieces and glue them together in your runbooks and projects and really leverage the runbooks. All right, so coming back into our PowerShell task here. So from a task perspective, when I say that there was 300 tasks, we can come over here and we can add a task. And so you can see that there are configuration items, provisioning items, PC, lifecycle management, virtualization. There's a ton of stuff in here. Security, there's a search up here if you're trying to find something. But if you wanted to do file operations, registry, they have printer permissions, firewall settings, and when you get into the advanced stuff, you're talking like executing commands. So, and you can execute commands on Linux, Mac machines, and Windows. You can execute database statements. So this stuff is super powerful. So it really, again, it's kind of your imagination. The cool thing about these is these are kind of fill in the blank. So if you're not a scripting person, and you don't know your way around, all this stuff is pretty straightforward and simple to fill out from a task perspective. Let me find the Active Directory so you can kind of see. So we'll look at like a moving an Active Directory object. So I'm going to move someone from one OU to the next OU or something like that. So all we're doing is coming over here and filling in the blanks. And I told you guys a minute ago about the variables. So when you come over here, you can even insert those variables right into here. So if I want my Active Directory domain controller, I can basically just insert that right in here. So everywhere inside this console, basically you can leverage those variables. And you can see how powerful and awesome that is because every time you create tasks or whatever with that variable, it's just updated in one place. So a very, very cool feature. So let's get into this piece. And I just kind of want to give you guys an example of like how this kind of works. So for modules or for functions, if any of you have programmed before, normally you have parameters. So you need to provide input into there. So just like those boxes we had a second ago had field forms, where we're basically going to put information like DC inside of there. So we would create the same thing for a custom one. So we're going to have an input parameter, an output parameter, and just a status. So when I come over here into the PowerShell, by default, it'll want a resource like a file, but I typically use the script tab. So one of the other cool things about this is over in those variables that we looked at a second ago, I can come over here and put credentials in here so that the context of this changes. So if I needed to run PowerShell against Exchange and it was one service account, I just come over here and add that in here from our variables and add the credentials in. So here you can see this is like the service account name and the password. And all this stuff is stored as AES 256 encryption, but I basically just changed the context. Whenever this PowerShell script runs, it's now going to run with the Active Directory service account. Whenever the Active Directory service account changes, I change it in one place. Every task that ever uses it, it's fixed. So very powerful, very, very cool from that perspective. So when I come over here into the script, and this is just a really basic one. So one of the cool things is, we want to be able to basically get data out of something, and we may return it down. So we're doing things in steps. So we're passing data along inside of these tasks. So they added this cool thing where we can use global variables inside of PowerShell that we'll be able to set multiple things. So previously, one of the things, you have an exit code and a standard output. This is standard error, standard output. Is basically how Windows works whenever something is outputted from a process. So you would have to set one of these, which kind of limited you so that you could only set, when it's one script executed, you could only set one parameter. And so they added this feature where you can use these global variables. So you'd be able to do a first name, last name, and whatever else you wanted all in one script and return all that information back into your tasks, which was pretty cool. So let's go ahead and run this. Cancel. All right, so we're gonna run this guy. So we're going to scheduling. So from a scheduling standpoint, basically your who is your teams or your agents. So I'm going to run this against an agent that's on a computer named DC. Then it's just asking me for that one parameter, that input parameter, and we'll just put Flycast here. And we'll run it. So this basically is immediately going to go over here. It's going to sit and wait for that dispatcher to pick up the request to run something. It'll show up over here in activity that basically it's being processed. And then as soon as it's finished being processed, then you'll see it in your job history. So you can see that we successfully executed that task. I come over here, and so this is the way that it views this is, you would see that we successfully executed this, a failure would show over here, and then this one was skipped. So if we kind of dig in, we can kind of look at like these tasks, right? So we can come over here and see what's going on. So it basically does replace inside of here. So you can see Flycast was basically just inserted into the script. And then we have our console output, which is basically starting script complete. But we set that parameter, that output parameter with the global variable here. So now that variable is set, so we could pass that down to subsequent tasks going back and down through your pipeline. So you can do all kinds of stuff with this once you do that. And then, so for this one, I basically just said, I want to execute a main task, and then I'm going to have a successful task. So this is something that will run only if it's successful. And then this will be failed. So to show you guys that real quick, we come back over here. Go to our script, and I'm just going to type broke here because this will break the script. So we'll do that, hit OK, schedule the job, do the same thing we did before. We're going to run this on DC. Okay. Job parameter is going to be Flycast again. All right, so we're back over here to the dispatcher area, and it's basically going to wait to get picked up and come over here into the job history. So from the console's perspective, you know, it's again, this goes into the audit aspect of things. So when you have your tasks that are like spread across all these different servers as scheduled tasks or something like that, it's kind of hard to keep track of these types of things. So you can see here that you guys can see all the tasks that are executing, if they're successful, failed, who ran it, what context. You can dig into the tasks, see all the output of the scripts. So it's a great place to centralize all those things. So when we looked at this one, now you can see that the main task actually failed because we broke it. This never ran because it was not a success. And then I had to run another script because the main task failed. I wanted to run another script. And so it actually executed this last script. So come over here and oh snap, that didn't work. So, you know, so it just kind of shows the creativity here on like what exactly you guys can do and manage inside of here. So Rich, I'll pause for a second and see, are there any questions?
So we don't have any questions right now, but folks, this is a great time to ask, especially since he's in the tool itself and he can show you firsthand. So if you have questions, please type those in the question section of this GoToWebinar platform, and we'll get those asked, and Rob will get some answers and show you around a little bit. So type your questions in, folks.
Okay. Well, while we're waiting on questions, I'm just going to kind of continue going through. Rich, I don't know how we are on time, but
we've got a few minutes left. We're should be coming to the wrap up time here.
Okay, so I just wanted to pop over here. The administration piece is one of the other pieces of this, and basically just talk about like the audit trail and stuff like that. So this is the internal audit trail. So when someone changes scripts, there's versioning, so you can see who made changes to the scripts, what exactly they changed. So it's pretty powerful from this perspective too. You know, so if you have one of your rogue admins going over and changing one of your tasks and stuff like that and trying to figure out who logged onto the server and stuff like that, it's super easy because this is built for this. So you can come over and see exactly who changed what inside the system. Coming over to security, one of the things I wanted to kind of touch on was, so you have logins, and this is how you give people access to the console. But one of the things that's really cool is administrative roles. So, you know, if you have a help desk or you want to give a team access to something very specific, like you only want them to have access to one folder inside of the tasks that are out there. The permissions allow you to do that. So you basically could come over here and say that you don't want this person, or you only want them to see this, you don't want them to see it, you do. So all that stuff, everything that's in that console structure, basically you can manipulate. So you can expand all those things out as well. So if you wanted someone to have access to certain run books and not certain run books, you can be very granular on the permissions that someone has inside the console. And then one of the other things I didn't really touch on in the topology is trusts. So there is the capability also that you can do agent trusts. So if you have a separate team, you only want them to be able to access this console and access certain tasks and run those tasks against certain agents. So you have two servers that they're managing and allowed to run tasks against. You can lock down the console to do that. So you could come over and say that they only have permission to run on two agents. So you can do some pretty granular permissions inside of the console to be able to, you know, have an entire teams use it, not just one team of administrators. You could expand this out and change the permissions to allow lots of teams to do lots of things. Anything yet, Rich?
We do not have any questions at this time, but we are basically out of time. So folks, if you do have questions, by all means, please go ahead and email those to us or call us. Call us at 844-FLYCAST. That's 844-359-2278. Chat with us live on our website Monday through Friday during 8:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. They're happy to get you any additional information on automation. You can email us at info@flycastpartners.com. We'll get you the information. Oh, here we go. Here's a question. Adam wants to know, is there a trial version to test this out?
So that's exactly where I was going before Rich started talking. So I came over here to the licensing aspect of things just to let you guys know. You can reach out to your Flycast account rep to request access. If you're already a Ivanti customer, then it's pretty simple to get it. There's a 45-day license that you can get over here, which can be extended by your account reps. So yes, there is a way to basically test this and set it up and play around and see what you can do inside of the system. So just contact your Flycast account rep and they'll take care of you. That's
all
it, Rich.
Well, so if those are all the questions, we're going to go ahead and give you the rest of your day back. And I want to thank you once again for joining us and taking out time out of your busy schedule to watch our presentation today. It's very much appreciated. All those of you that did attend today will receive a $10 Domino's gift card directly from Domino's Corporate within 5 business days of the end of this presentation. I want to remind every one of you that are interested in getting in that raffle, by all means, go to our website, go enter into our weekly raffle, win a Bluetooth speaker. All it costs you is a couple seconds of your time to fill out the information for the drawing. We have a drawing every Friday evening, and it's announced on our website and on our social media. And if you win, I'll email you and mail it out to you with a couple of other goodies. If you're a current customer of Flycast Partners, I encourage you to go to our website and sign up for our $500 lunch. We are going to give you $500 for you and your teammates to enjoy lunch together on us. So with no other questions, I have a lot of thank yous coming from the audience and a lot of nice jobs, Rob. So thank you for your time today. I know you're a busy man.
Thanks, guys.